The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Thrilled to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. I just want to take a quick second to say it's raining here in Southern California and that makes it a little bit nuts, but we want to make sure we still have tickets available for our Sensitive Santa event that we do every year. If you are in the Los Angeles area, please go directly to our Facebook site right now. There is a link that you can click and you can register for the free tickets. We opened it up. Normally we only do it on one day a year, and so many people have said to us, why don't you do it for a couple of days? So we have Thursday night, tomorrow night, Friday, and all day Saturday. And we still have openings for kiddos. What you get to do is you get to go into a We Rock the Spectrum gym. You sign up for an hour time. You bring your whole family, all of your kiddos on the spectrum, not on the spectrum. Bring grandma if you want to, just no dogs, okay? And you come to the gym, and instead of waiting in line to see Santa, there's no line waiting. The kiddos play. And we have card therapists that are there to help facilitate good play. And then one by one, an elf comes and finds your child, and they get to go, the whole family gets to go have a private audience with Santa Claus. You get to take as many pictures as you want. There is nobody standing there telling you have to hurry. We have been doing this this is the 6th year. We have never, not once, not been able to get the picture. So the kids love it, and sometimes they don't, the first time, they can't get close to Santa. That's okay. We do sort of a, just sort of meet and greet, and then they go back and play, and then we bring them back in, and sometimes we have to bring them back in 4 times, but you get to be able to take as many pictures as you want. It's really emotional. Everybody has a really good time, and to top that off, all the children that are there get a wrap toy. And these are some of the toys from our Festival of Toys and from the companies in our Festival of Toys that have been so generous. Everything is free. There is absolutely no cost. So if you are in the Los Angeles area, register now. Go to our Facebook. Traven is showing it to you. And unbelievably, we still have tickets. Okay. I also want to say to you that throughout this next hour, we're going to be live. We do have Dr. Doreen Grampichet here with us. We're going to be live. She's going to be answering your questions. So Traven's going to show you right now all the different ways that you can connect, all the different ways that you can have your thoughts, feelings, questions, concerns addressed. So please be writing in right now and check out all the different ways that you can watch the show. While he shows you that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's lots of things that you can do. Check out the toy guide at the top, chat with us at the bottom, in addition to chatting with us on Facebook and YouTube and all of those things. I do want to say that we had a viewer who, we'll get into that when we get into other things. But please be with us here for this next hour. Have your questions answered. I'm trying to give Traven just a couple of more seconds to show you the things. But we have with us one of the most wonderful people on the face of the earth, right? It is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet is
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grampichet.
Dr. Grampichet.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet.
Dr. Doreen Grampichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Hello and welcome. I was just saying they've turned the heat on in the studio, and I at some point, if I keel over, it is from heat.
It's all over the building. It's upstairs too. We
What
were like
is-
really hot. Yes.
And I understand that it's raining, but you know, I'm a woman of a certain age and a certain
too.
size. You're not of the size. It's like, whoa! I feel like I'm on a beach or in a pizza oven. But other than that, folks, we're here with Dr.
Good
Doreen
morning. Good
Grampiche,
morning.
and she's one of my favorite people on the face of the earth. And
Shannon, thank you so much.
honestly, to have her here to be able to answer your questions in this format is just such a wonderful, lovely thing. For those of you who don't know her, she truly is, I think, the preeminent expert in autism in our time, and what other time is there than now for autism? And she's been working in this field for many years, and I don't like to give it away, but a long time. Older than your children. And she's been working with your adult children. And she's been working with kids from very young age up through senior citizens. So there is no better mind to be able to help us with questions. Please keep in mind, though, that there is no expert in this field or any other that could give individual specific advice in this format. It would be a disservice to you and to the individual to assume that we could. But please write in, be as specific as possible, and Dr. Grampiche will open up her beautiful mind and share with you information that she has, which really can help you to know which question to ask next, which expert to go to next.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. And I wanted to, I started to say this before, we had somebody who wrote in to us from England who wanted to stay confidential, but one of the things that they wanted to say is thank you so much for everything and
that's so
all
nice.
the information that you have shared and how helpful it has been to them. But they had a question, and a couple of people have written in with questions about skills for autism and asking if the 14-day free trial still exists.
Yes, as far as I know, it
And,
does.
and I
yes.
want to let everybody know that I called and checked and made sure this morning it doesn't exist in the same way that it used to.
Okay.
Used to be that if you signed up, you automatically got the 14-day free trial and they wouldn't charge your credit card until day 15. It doesn't work that way on the website anymore, apparently. So just to clarify that if you would like to do that, though, they are still willing to do that. You just have to call and speak to somebody because the website won't do it automatically, but they will give you the 14-day free trial. And I always say to people, you know, call and tell them that Shannon sent you, and if you decide to stay, ask for the Shannon Penrod Friends and Family discount,
that's right.
which they're still figuring out. But anyway, but there's some sort of a discount.
And I should actually say here that we have a new executive director for skills who is starting Andre next week.
Okay.
And we're very excited about that. So lots of good stuff will be coming for skills too.
I will make sure that I become best friends with that person so
He's-
that the
he's
friends,
wonderful.
so that the Friends and Family Shannon Penrod discount
sure he'll
remains.
keep it,
All right.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So, and we began to answer this question the other day, but then Grandma wrote in again, so I think she missed it. So I want to address it just at the beginning. Hey, I'm a grandma that takes care of my autistic grandson who has sensory processing nonverbal. I can have them Thursday through Saturday, and I'm trying to get respite, but I'm having a hard time getting it. I live in Madera County, California. And we had addressed this just at the last week, but she wrote in again, so I don't think she saw it. I just want to say, for those of you who are in the California area, make sure that first you become a regional center client, right? And you might go, oh, but I don't get that much out of being a regional center client. That's all about to change because self-determination is going to be there for everyone by next year. So make sure that you sign up to be a regional center client, jump through all of those hoops. Then you must sign up for Medi-Cal. And I know that, again, you go, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. It's a lot of paperwork. Yes, it's absolutely worth it. Because once you sign up for Medi-Cal, please sign up for IHSS, In-Home Health Support Services. What that does is makes you eligible to get more respite, because you'll get some respite from the regional center. Once you sign up for Medi-Cal, that respite from the regional center will cost you $0, which is a very good thing, right? And when you get IHSS, you will get more respite, and they will pay you or someone else for anything that is above and beyond that you have to do for your child that you wouldn't have had to do for a neurotypical child. So, for a 4-year-old, most 4-year-olds need help getting dressed, right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
they're not going to pay you for dressing a 4-year-old, but if you have a 14-year-old and he needs help getting dressed, they will pay you for the time that it takes to dress him.
Very good.
If you have to drive them to medical appointments, they will pay you from the time that you leave your house until you get to the medical appointment.
Perfect.
Because that's something you wouldn't have to do for a neurotypical child.
Right.
And the whole idea behind that, the great state of California believes that some families want to keep these individuals at home and that should be honored, but you shouldn't be penalized for that.
That's right.
You should be, rewarded for that, and somebody should help you to do that. And the fact is, if they didn't live with you, they would live someplace else, and it would cost the state something else. So they want to help you. And for those of you who are like, well, I can't get my child to the center because I would have to leave work. Well, then you can contract somebody. You pick who you want. It could be your brother-in-law who drives well, and you pay them to drive your child to the center. Somebody gets paid. In some cases, it's the moms. And I will say that,
It's a great benefit, honestly.
I wished I had known about it.
Right. Well, and I wish it was more than just California. This is very much California specific. And
Yes,
it's really good.
it is California specific. There are some little programs in other states, but nothing like in California. But I do want to say that anymore, we encourage everyone in every state, if you have a child with autism, to sign up for whatever the Medicare program is in your state, because there are some benefits to that. But in the state of California, it is that 3-step process, and it takes a long time. First, the regional center takes a while.
Yes.
Then,
Medi-Cal sign up.
Medi-Cal sign up takes a while, but have your regional center person help you to do the IHSS paperwork, because it starts your submission starts on the day that you put it in, and it might take 8 months, but then they give you a check back to the first day that you put it in.
That's amazing.
And sometimes for families, that is the difference of being homeless.
That's amazing.
Right? It's absolutely amazing.
That's
so
amazing.
It's a great investment for your time, and it makes things like the respite very possible.
Wonderful.
That is the thing to do. Okay, so all right, moving on. Let's get into some questions that you guys.
Sounds good.
Somebody on Facebook yesterday wrote in and said, "So I wish I could figure out how to get my son excited for speech therapy. It's Fridays and it takes away from his routine."
Right.
And so, what would you suggest for that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do whenever. Just always remember when you have to. When you're placing a demand or doing something that's unpleasant, then increase the reinforcers, right? So that means basically on Fridays, after speech therapy, your son should get some type of reward that he doesn't get the rest of the week. First of all, identify what that is and what's meaningful to him. And if it's just about, if his discomfort is just because he's giving up his routine, then it's not a big deal. You just reward it and he will get used to it. But please also make sure that you observe his speech sessions and make sure that it's nothing other than increased demand, and that's why he doesn't like it. But just reward. I mean, I always tell people, like, the days that you're taking your child to see a doctor, dentist, pediatrician, they're gonna get a shot. Anything like that, just increase reward on those days.
I loved, yesterday I went to leave the building, and somebody made the mistake of telling me that I was a good parent, and I was like, oh, you have no idea. And I said, I'm about to be the most unpopular person on the block because I was forcing my son to go with me to decorate Christmas trees for the Sensitive Santa event.
Oh, right.
And I knew for sure that there were other things on his agenda, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And because I'm here in this building, the person said, what's the reinforcer that you're going to be offering?
There you go.
And I said, oh, well, no, he's getting Zankou chicken for dinner.
There you go.
And because as a parent, you just know that, like, there's some things that you're going to ask your child to do.
They don't want to do.
And my kid is so well attuned to this and knows that he gets a paycheck for things. And I picked him up and I was like, okay, you're not going to be happy, but
Afterwards, we'll go.
Here's what we have to go do. And he was like, what are we having for dinner? And I was like, how does Zankou? And he was like, I'm all good. Let's go get these trees decorated, right?
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right?
Is Zankou his favorite?
Well, it's one of his favorites.
That's
Zankou
good.
is, it's, I don't know if you've ever had it.
Oh, yes, it's fantastic.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, in any case, and your kids get used to that, so that you don't have to go through the big rigmarole of, what.
That's right.
And then, of course, there'll be somebody who will write in and go, but then, and actually we have a question on here, what's the difference between bribing and reinforcing? Maybe we should jump to that one.
Sure, absolutely.
And they said, hi, Shannon, what's the difference between bribing and reinforcing? Love your show and energy. We love you back.
That's awesome.
But what is the difference?
So bribing, first of all, let's just say bribing is very similar to reinforcing. It's a reminder of a reinforcer coming. So that's basically the answer. Reinforcers occur after the fact. They are things that you give to reward a behavior that has occurred. Bribing, which we would classify as a discriminative stimulus, or SD, is basically the reminder that a reinforcer is coming. So it occurs before the behavior has taken place. And with that said, there's nothing wrong with bribing. We call it bribing. We give it a bad name. I mean, bribing is, the negative associated with bribing is has to do with people paying for bad things to happen or whatever it is. But the truth is, all you're doing is you're reminding someone that there's a reward in it for you. And if they do the behavior, they get the reward.
And I think a lot of what parents worry about is that, well, they'll say, well, I want him to do it because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
And if every time I give him something, then he'll never learn. And I just want to say, from a parent perspective of somebody who's gone through this, nothing could be further from the truth. We stopped rewarding everything and have more of, I think, what you guys call the
natural reinforcers.
Well, it's the slot machine that sometimes you win and sometimes you
Variable
don't.
ratio.
Okay, we call it the slot machine. And so sometimes he gets something and sometimes he doesn't. It just sort of depends. But I see my child being helpful to other people. And doing things because they're the right thing to do, and because he enjoys now how people treat him when he's doing those kinds of things.
That's right.
So it maintains itself in so many different ways, and then there's a reinforcer afterwards.
And that's life. I mean, if you look at everything that we do in life, there's a built-in reinforcer for things, right? So one could say, if you tell someone, go do this job and you will get paid $50,000, that's a bribe.
Yeah.
Right? All it is a reminder of the reward. And by the way, no one would go to work if they didn't have the reward of money. Right?
Right.
So everything we do is based on some sort of reward that we are hoping to gain by it. Now, it's not always a reward that's outside of the actual act. In some cases, we're just motivated, like you said. The reward comes from the feeling you have that you just helped someone. The reward comes from the feeling you have that you made your parent proud.
Yeah.
And that's the one I always use as an example with parents, because a lot of times our kids are not yet aware, because remember, Shannon, it goes back to that whole theory of mind thing that we talk about, right? So typically developing kids often are extremely aware of how their parents feel from day one, and what their parents are thinking. What's in my mom's mind. This is the beginning of executive function, joint attention. You look at mom, you realize mom is looking at that and finding it funny, so maybe I should as well. These are some of the things where it's almost like mind reading. And when you can read the mind of your parents, doing your homework makes them proud. If they're proud, they give you a hug. That's the reward you want. And with our kids, a lot of times they can't recognize those key features. And secondly, they don't really care about those. They're not reinforcing to our kids. To get a hug from mom is not necessarily the reward the child's looking for.
Right.
They find it more rewarding to perhaps do something more self-stimulatory.
Right.
So why would I then socialize? Because that in itself is aversive, and I don't really care if somebody gives me a hug about it. You know what I mean? So the contingencies are different. So we have to make it more obvious for our kids initially.
Yes.
And as Shannon said, over time, it becomes very, very easy to reduce those rewards. And you do actually reduce them to variable ratio, variable interval schedules, and you make it so that it's more like real life.
Yeah.
In real life, you can do a good deed. You don't always get rewarded for it.
Right.
But you're used to it.
Right. And I think that our kiddos get they get very comfortable, and I don't want to use the word addicted, but they really like it when things are going well and are easy,
Right.
like a lot of us, right?
Absolutely.
And if I just have to do this and it makes mom happy, then that makes me happy,
Right.
is how I
Over
see
time.
him look at it. Yeah.
And the other thing that's kind of interesting with this whole schedules of reinforcement, a lot of people think that if you reward a behavior every single time it occurs, when you stop rewarding every single time it occurs, the behavior is going to stop. That's the opposite of the truth. When you have a continuous schedule of reinforcement, that means I reward every single time. And if I gradually now reduce it, that behavior actually never goes away, because psychologically what's happening is the individual, the person, is always thinking, wait, do I need to do 2 more times to get this reward? Where's that reward? I'm going to keep doing it. That's where variable ratio leads to no extinction.
Yeah.
Like a behavior will never go away if you occasionally reward it.
Yes. Absolutely.
So don't worry.
And life gets good when this when these kinds of things
absolutely.
happen. It just gets so much easier.
Absolutely. So bribe away.
Yes, bribe away.
Don't worry.
And don't feel guilty about it, because it works. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and answer more of your questions. Stick with us.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Welcome back. So you just saw a video showing some of previous Sensitive Santa. So again, that's happening tomorrow, Thursday. It goes from 5 to 8 tomorrow. Then on Friday, it goes from 4 to 7. And then on Saturday from 10 to 3:30. So, and then on Saturday at 4 o'clock, I will be so tired that you will have to scrape me off the sidewalk. But
on Friday, you're coming.
We're coming for the last 40 minutes. We moved it an hour earlier because we have place that we have to be on Friday night for the last 40 minutes.
God bless.
You'll take us in costume because that will be how we will have to come.
That will be amazing.
There's no other time.
That's incredible.
So in any case, the thing about Sensitive Santa for me and for my family, it has now become our holiday tradition. And my son will only be there on Saturday. So if you're coming to meet my son, come on Saturday. But it is a thing as a family that we really embrace. And there is a moment during every year that we've done it where each person literally falls apart. And then we have to get it back together. Last year, we were so excited that there were 2 bus loads of adults who came from an adult center.
That's so nice.
And, we have all these different gifts to give, and we gave one person had their visit with Santa, and they got this one gift. It's those massive googly balls from Imperial Toys that they look like a big koosh ball.
Sure.
And they had seen one, and they sort of asked for it. I said, and so I gave that to one adult. And then another adult came in, and I went to give them another.
And they wanted the same
thing. And they were like, no, can we all have the googly balls? And so I wish we'd gotten a picture of them when they got back on their buses, all of them with their googly balls, and they were just absolutely loving them. And I think that was what sort of leveled all of us. We just were like,
this is what it's all about.
Well, and what a privilege to be able to be there.
That's true.
That there's lots of other things you could be doing with your time, but what a privilege to get to be there and hand a gift to somebody that is meaningful to them at a point in their life when you would love to give them something meaningful.
Absolutely.
Big privilege. And a privilege to get to be there and see kids that for the first time get to have that interaction with Santa that's meaningful.
Yeah.
And to watch the moms' reactions because they sob.
Absolutely.
They sob and they're like, I just thought I would never get to have a Santa picture.
That's amazing.
And I can remember thinking that.
Yeah.
That's not for us.
Yeah.
We're never going to get to do that.
That's incredible.
So
did you get enough volunteers this year?
We still are taking volunteers.
That's great.
We are still taking volunteers. I think we're good on Saturday, but it's tomorrow and of course Friday because there's so many things going on Friday.
Yes.
But anyway. It's all good. And we hope that you guys will come. It is free. There is no cost. There's nobody charging you for a picture. There's nobody charging you to get in the gym. Nobody charges you for the gift. It's totally free, and that's all there is to it, which I absolutely love. Okay, moving on. The next question that we have, my son is 4 years, 10 months old, was typical till 2.8 years, and then he lost all his speech and slowly picked up since then, working with him one-on-one, applying sunrise principles, and we were coming to the point where he was able to request all of his needs and pretty much well connected. But now, since this August, we have started his school, and slowly we are feeling his speech is dropping and he is not well connected with us at home. Please advise.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's clearly you've changed his environment and the way that he interacts with people. School is going to be pretty drastically different from if you were running a sunrise program. So I can't really advise you on the sunrise program and how you would go back to establishing the gains that you perhaps saw during that program. Sunrise is a very child-centered type of program, so perhaps your child is having difficulty with adjusting to environmental rules and requirements, which would be kind of the opposite of the way sunrise is. And in the long run, honestly, I think you need to help your child acclimate to the fact that we have to adhere to the rules of school, right? I mean, there's no choice. We all kind of have to. So perhaps you basically have 3 options right now. I would say you go back and contact the folks at Sunrise who are helping you. and you tell them what's going on, and they should intervene and give you feedback and help you move forward. The second option is to actually start an ABA program. If you start an ABA program, Applied Behavior Analysis, it'll help with this particular situation as well as any other issues and language and so on. So that's another option. The third option is to just go to your school and say, my child is having issues right now. I'm noticing his speech has dropped. And if you have to say it 10 times, say it 10 times. Like, do not give up. And one time is definitely not enough. Call for an emergency IEP, make a big fuss, and they will give you assistance. They'll give you a BCBA, board certified behavior analyst, who can come in, look and find out exactly why your child might not be doing well. They will assess. Your school will do an assessment to identify what's going on with his speech right now. What's going on? Does he have anxiety? Is it an environment he just can't cope with? And then they'll suggest resources. You just have to push. So basically, either Sunrise or your school, or start an ABA program.
And I just want to say, because I'm not an expert, and so I can say whatever I want to say. One of my dearest friends, one of my college roommates, her son was diagnosed with autism 25 years ago. And I watched her first go through autism, and she is like a hero to me. And what she was able to find back in that time was the Sunrise program. She went and got trained. She did the Sunrise program with her son. It was intensive. She had volunteers from the community. I mean, I was so impressed with her, how she carried being an autism mom and the things that she did for her son. And they had some results that she was really happy with Sunrise. And now he is a 26-year-old young man, and she comes and sees my son, and she weeps. She weeps and says, oh, what did we miss? Because her son is in a day program where he puts things together, and he can read the New York Times, but he is in a program where he puts things together, and she was grateful for that. And I just want to say that from her perspective, and she always says to me, Shannon, tell the parents, I loved my Sunrise program, but tell them to go do what you did. So I'm telling you, go get an ABA program and help your child to gain the skills that they need to be in the world.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm just throwing that at you. Want to look at some of the things that people on Facebook. Karen Delaney wrote in and said, happy holidays to you and Jem and Hubs. And Karen, thank you for being with us from day one. I want to encourage people. Karen and I are friends on Facebook, and Karen, I saw that you got out the good china for Thanksgiving because she's living large.
Nice.
Wasn't sure if she was going to do that, but got out the good china. I saw that. You can friend me on Facebook. I'm friends with lots of viewers, and I saw it, Karen. I saw it, and I was like, go, Karen. Ilana Gershlovitz has written in, and she says, we love you, Shannon and Doreen. Skills and Card are the best in the world.
Hi,
and many hand clapping to her that she wrote in, and we miss you, Ilana. Come and visit us soon. And then the O-Mom, who refers to herself as the O-Mom, has written in and says that insurance just dropped her son from 20 hours to 18. He's now he's 9 years old, and she wants to know, is that enough?
You know, honestly, I guess enough is a hard one to answer because, first of all, I don't know what he's working on right now, but it could very well be enough because of his age. He's got so many other things going on. This is one of the things that I talk about often, is that our kids, the older they get, there's like a million other things coming in their lives. So it's very, very difficult to fit in everything that we need them to learn. So, you know, and you can't, some of the stuff you can reduce, but you can't like drop them out of school, for example. Like there are certain things you just have to do. So their time becomes a little overwhelming, and like the stuff that they have to do becomes just excessive.
She's asking, and I hate to interrupt you, but she's saying, I would like for you to see my child and judge what he needs, if he needs more than what insurance approved.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
She says, you're so knowledgeable and you've been doing this for so long, you can see what path my child needs. And
absolutely, I'd love to. And I have seen him in the past, and I'm happy to see him again. and see you. I haven't seen you in a while, and I look forward to it. We'll get you scheduled.
Okay.
And I'm going to have some more time coming in 2020 so that I can do more clinical work.
There we go. Michelle on YouTube wants to know, what do you do when you're at the store and your child wants chocolate or cookies every time we go to the store? How can I explain to him that we can't have it without him crying and throwing a fit? It's a great question because we've all been there, right?
It's a terrific question. And, you know, there's no easy answer to this because basically this is one of those things where Shannon and I, there's lots of different solutions, by the way, and I can give you lots of different options, but they all take a little bit of effort. This is one of those things where we think we can handle a tantrum in the course of daily life, and you can't. You actually have to do an intervention for this, which basically means you will need to find the time outside of your normal routine of going shopping where you practice your child behaving in a shopping area. So, and it's not when you're shopping, because when you're shopping, you're engaged with and busy and trying to find the right foods and whatever it is. But this other intervention of how to fix that problem, it requires several visits. It requires you to go in and only walk in for, let's say, this is one way to do it. There's many ways to do it, but this is one way to do it. It's just you go in and you know probably the aisles and the locations and the things that will set your child off. So you initially you just go in, let's say, and you only walk into the very front area and you leave. And assuming you've caught your child not crying or tantruming or wanting anything, you leave, and as soon as you leave, you give your child a big reinforcer, candy, whatever it was that he or she wanted. And he didn't, because now you're reinforcing him without him having had a tantrum. So now the second time you go in, another day, and you go in a few more steps, and you go to the fruit area, let's say, where there's nothing enticing there for the child, and you leave. And when you leave, you give your child fruit, candy again, or whatever reinforcers. So you keep doing this. And if your child ever does actually tantrum, you leave and you don't give a reinforcer. And that's the key to it. I mean, the bottom line is what you're trying to teach your child is that I will give you this candy, but not if you tantrum. I will give it to you if you're able to be calm and quiet. And then you will get that reward. And by the way, you can use things like a timer, for example. You will gradually increase the time that your child is supposed to wait. I mean, and all of these suggestions it would constitute just one way of doing it. There's lots of different ways to teach your child this. The key to it, though, is that there's two things going on for your child you have to understand. First thing is, they are seeing these items that are very provoking for them. So when they see a candy bar or something that the child wants, it reminds them, oh my God, candy, I want the candy, right? And so that's one thing. The second thing is they are, this is a long period of time. When we go shopping, our kids hate it. Like it's an hour of having to hang out with you while you're doing all these things. So ideally, if you could alter one of those two things, so like avoid long shopping trips if you could, because sometimes we just can't. Sometimes we have to take our children with us, right? And make sure that if a tantrum occurs, you just leave. You have the help and the ability to not give in. What happens is that when our kids tantrum, usually we're in public, it's super, super hard, as you know, Shannon, and we give in because like you have a million other things to do.
It's easier for us.
I mean, there's just,
sometimes you don't have a choice.
Sometimes you just don't have a choice. Sometimes you're about to lose your mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're embarrassed in front of other people. Sometimes you just don't know what to do.
You're like, I just have to get these groceries. Here, take the lollipop so I can get it done.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of times what I've heard from parents is that just like the panic that we have when people are looking at us in a bad way. The judgment kills us. So what I'm saying is like avoid all of that if you can. If you can't, I would rather you give the child the lollipop or the reward before the tantrum occurs. So and by the way, you don't necessarily have to give them a lollipop or candy. You can also give them their favorite toy, or an iPad, something very, very distracting. But it has to occur when you enter the place so that it is before a tantrum occurs. If you manage to go 5 or 10 minutes without a tantrum, you can also reward that. Like, just make sure you're not rewarding when a tantrum occurs, or a series of behaviors occur that you don't want, that are challenging, and you are rewarding when your child is behaving well. And that's really the difference.
Okay, can I tell a really short, funny story?
Of course.
So a couple of months ago, I had the opportunity in the middle of the summer to go and have dinner with some of our BCBAs who've been around for a long time.
Right.
So it was like the rock star of the rock stars. And we had dinner, we come out, and there's an ice cream place 2 doors down, and they wanted the ice cream.
I think I know who these people are.
I think you know who these people are too. And so there were these people walking this big English bulldog, and his name was Frank.
Okay.
And Frank was so adorable, and all of us were just squealing over Frank, and everybody else in the parking lot was squealing over Frank. Frank is so awesome. And they were trying to get Frank to walk because Frank needs some exercise. He's a little on the hefty side, and he wanted ice cream or to go home, right?
Hilarious.
And so Frank threw a tantrum. He dug in and he pushed back in his back legs, and he had this handle, this jacket with a handle on him, and this big guy owner was trying to he was like, "Come on, Frank." And the mom of the, because it was clear this is their baby, the mom was like, "Frank, we have to go for a walk." And he would just dig in, and he would, right, and he was not going anywhere. And so all these, and they don't know that this is this group of BCBAs with, probably 1,000 years experience between them. And they're trying to convince Frank to go, and of course Frank is like, "I'm staying here for the attention in the hope that somebody gets me ice cream, or I'm going back to the car. Those are the only 2 choices, right?" And there came this moment where Mom went, "Oh, okay, Frank.
Oh yeah, I'm giving it.
And let's go back to the car." And I think she even gave him some ice cream. And all of the BCBAs at the same time went, "Well, that's how it's going to be from now on forever." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" When you're with a bunch of BCBAs, they were like, "Well, Frank wins forever."
That's right.
Every single time now, Frank's going to do that because Frank knows if I hang out long enough, they're going to give me what I want. It was just so clear to them in the moment. But to that mom and dad of Frank the dog, they were like, "Well, we just gave in that once."
Yeah.
But all of the BCBAs were like, "Good luck with that."
Exactly.
Frank now knows that works. So, clearly Frank knew from before. But I thought, go to dinner with BCBA.
Yeah, honestly, they're secretly thinking these things.
Right.
But that's the thing. If we reinforce tantrums, or that becomes our mode of communication. I mean, this is not just children on the spectrum. It's
everything.
Everyone.
Everything and everyone. Yes.
If anyone ever tantrums and you give in, they now learn that their tantrum is effective. So.
Listen, I have said time and time again, if I could throw a tantrum and get out of doing my taxes, I would throw a tantrum every day. I could schedule it. I would be like, "See, I don't want to have to do my taxes." Okay, so, and of course I just turned off my page here. Okay, and we should say Ready, Set, Autism Family wrote in and said to Michelle, "We have the same issue. We just found out that she would take anybody out for a Sour Patch Kid." I'm sorry, but I love how you worded that. You take them out for a Sour that they go on to say, "We implemented those into her ABA, and she's doing much better now."
Yeah.
So they found a different way to take that reinforcer and use it for the positive.
Absolutely.
Good job, Mom.
I mean, that's a really good one. We should actually talk about that for a minute. If you can, that's another. It's called satiation. You essentially give the child enough of that reinforcer at other times that are more appropriate. They're satiated when they see the reinforcer. They don't want it anymore. So, that's a big point.
But the mom who started the original conversation has written in and said he's so obsessed with snacks from the school and he doesn't have ABA because he aged out. So now that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, let's talk about that
out.
because you don't age out.
That's right.
So nobody ages out of ABA. So I'm not sure where does that term come from? Is it a school term or an insurance term?
Well, a lot of states have these mandates that say you can only get coverage up till a certain age. And then the insurance company will say, sorry, your child has reached that age. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, I guess that's just the truth because that's the law.
Right.
Not realizing, because they don't have Julie Cornack sitting directly next to them, that that is a state law. And state law is always superseded by federal law. And federal law has said there's no aging out.
Yeah.
So it isn't true. And when somebody tells you that your child is aged out, it's not true.
Push back on that.
Yeah.
There will always be funding for autism and ABA treatment for autism, and it changes in the way that it is. When your child is much younger, you're supposed to be getting very, very intensive services, which is called a comprehensive program. But for adults, we do focused programs. So this would be one area of focus that they would work on.
Absolutely. Now, LaToya has written in and said, how do I stop my kindergartner from having the giggles during his online schooling? He just starts laughing uncontrollably in the middle of doing his schoolwork.
So, this one, you really want to have someone, if you can get from the school district a BCBA who can come in. BCBA stands for Board Certified Behavior Analyst. So this is just someone with a lot of behavior analysis experience and a credential. And what they do is they will sit and observe what is going on and tell you what the function is. In other words, why is he giggling? Now, if I had to guess, I would guess that he's giggling because by giggling, he gets out of having to do the homework. So it's an avoidance function. He's avoiding this demand by giggling, and then someone comes and has to motor him through it or help him or whatever it is. But I could be completely wrong because I don't know your child. I haven't seen the circumstances. I don't know what's exactly going on. So someone has to come and observe exactly what happens before, exactly what he's looking at on screen, exactly how it's handled, and then they can tell you what the function is. When you've figured out what the function is, then from behavior analysis perspective, there's lots of solutions how to fix that. But without knowing that, I don't want to guess that it's possibly an avoidance function, but we'd have to see.
Can I throw yeast on the fire?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of our kids have yeast issues. And so they will behave like drunken elves.
Absolutely, but not always, not just in front of the screen.
Exactly. So that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Is there any other time that he does it, or is it specifically at a time of the day that he's doing it? Because it could be something that you're feeding him for breakfast. If you're feeding him a breakfast cereal, and then it's 40 minutes later because the sugar has had an opportunity to have the yeast grow.
Absolutely.
That for him, that sugared cereal might be the equivalent of like having a thing of brandy. And now he's drunk in front of his, it could also, like artificial colors and flavors can kick up the
Lots
yeast
of
as well.
dietary stuff to produce especially yeast and yeast die-off, both produce this giggling thing where you look like you're drunk and don't know what you're laughing about. So that's one option, and you have to determine if that's the case, because that would only then happen, as Shannon said, like if you've had a certain thing in the morning and it's always happening at the same time of the day. If it happens all day long, then it could still actually be a yeast die-off.
There's usually a smell associated with it. Not
if
always?
it's very strong.
Oh, okay.
So not really. The only way that you can accurately tell is an organic acids metabolized test, and that's not always accurate either.
Okay.
But that's definitely something you should have a doctor look into. Another option is that it is a behavioral thing, as I said, and he's giggling to avoid this demand. Another thing is that it could be a sensory thing, and what he's seeing on screen cracks him up.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying, like, you really need to kind of have someone observe the situation and help you figure it out.
Okay, Liz wants to know, hello ladies, how can I help my 14-year-old verbal child can't keep his hands to himself? He often touches people's faces, pushes, is impulsive, doesn't measure his force when playing, and hurts others by accident.
Yeah. So again, this is another situation where it's super important to figure out why he's doing that, the function of the behavior. So if it's a sensory function, which is just the first one I would go to in this, I would ask, if I was with you, I would ask you, does he have a sensory thing? Does he like touching textures or that type of thing? And is that why he's doing it? He could also be doing it because by touching people's faces, there's a reaction that comes from you or whoever is with him, and that's what he's hooked on, is the reaction. So again, I don't know what the function is. But if it is a sensory thing, you need to give him another item that produces that sensory stimulation for him, like let's say a small piece of something silky or whatever the texture is that he likes, and he can just actually have that in his pocket, and then you can teach him to play with that. This is the concept of, if he has a sensory need, you're replacing it, you're allowing him to do it under other circumstances so he doesn't do it inappropriately.
Okay.
But it could be anything else. Like again, these are very difficult things to answer without being able to observe the child, because you have to identify what, if he was verbal, what would he tell you? If he was able to communicate and tell you, I'm doing this because, what would it be? Would he say, I'm doing it because touching people's faces is just really feels cool? Would he say, I like doing it because the way people react when I do it? Would he say, I like doing it because it kind of ticks you off and I enjoy watching that? What is the reason? Why does he do it? And then that's where you can alter the circumstances and fix things.
There we go. Someone else on YouTube, and I probably need a little clarification here, but they're saying life skills versus academic for a 12-year-old verbal ASD who is high functioning.
Okay.
But has sensory challenges. And then it goes on to say he is in a life skills class, and it says, but not a lot of homey unless we request. And I think that's probably homework.
So what I'm saying,
Homework. We have confirmation.
So what I'm thinking is that, and we all use these terms and say high functioning. High functioning is different to each person. Like, high functioning to me is someone who's going to recover. So very, very close to typically developing. But high functioning could also mean someone who's verbal, in contrast to someone who's nonverbal. So it's very different. But I would always say, so depending, there's this psychologist and dead, an old psychologist passed away, Maslow, and what he had this kind of hierarchy of survival, right, basically, and you can say, what matters most is based on just our survival needs. Right. So when you look at your child, it probably matters most that he's able to do basic life skills rather than academic, right? So if you had a limited amount of time and you needed to choose, do I teach him how to, groom himself or learn the ABCs, and I can only choose one of those, then I would probably say groom himself, because it's always going to be more important to survival. Having said that, if he has more time, not resources, just time, then I would pack it with both of those things, because obviously academic skills, some of them are not really going to be useful. A lot of the academic stuff that our kids are typically developing kids learn today is not because of the content. It's not like how many people actually remember which president was when, or historically what war happened what year. That's not the point. It's just that it keeps the mind active and it engaged, and some of our kids are actually very interested in academic stuff, so it's somewhat rewarding. And of course, basic academic stuff is important, like reading, writing, some math skills. Those types of things are very useful in daily living. So it really depends on where he's at, what are the most important things, and how much time does he have. If he has a lot of time, then you should do as much as you possibly can, do the life skills and academic skills. If he doesn't have time, or if it's, you can only focus on one, then I would always pick the life skills.
And as far as the homework thing goes, because we also have another person who's asking how to help with homework, but I find, I'm a former teacher, and I find it interesting when parents, everybody has an opinion about homework, right? Mm-hmm. There are some teachers who believe that homework just, there are studies that show that it's not that effective, that, like a very brief amount of it does the job, because it's just supposed to reinforce whatever happened in the classroom. But the truth of the matter is that when our kids are home with us, as parents, we can do all kinds of things with them.
That's
and
true.
so, you can go to your teacher and ask for more homework. You could, or you could just find other, as you were saying, pack the schedule, find other activities. But don't, like I'm reading between the lines and feel like this parent feels like they're not getting enough. So I'm urging you to please listen to Dr. Grant-Pichet, pack more into the schedule.
Absolutely, put more in.
Yes, absolutely. But then for this parent who says the opposite, how to help with the homework, because homework can be miserable.
Homework can be miserable, and the whole system of homework has changed over the years. And I think homework, if it's done right, is very useful, I think. So if it's a teacher who gives you sort of more practice material for what was taught in class today, that's one thing. And that's probably useful. But right now, I think what has happened is that the teachers don't get through a lot of their curriculum. And so they never teach it, and they give the child homework, and then it becomes the parent's job to teach it. And that, I think, is really ridiculous, actually. So, but, that's my opinion about how things are going educationally. But how to help with homework, it's the same thing. It's always the same thing. You will break down the behavior to its smallest units and increase reward. So if you get, 5 items of homework, you want to make sure that they are manageable for your child. You will, of course, help with, modeling, helping the child figure things out. But you want to make sure they're manageable. If they're not manageable, you need to go back to the school and you need to ask for accommodations. If you ask for accommodations, they will either make the homework easier or just give your child less of it. And then you want to make sure at home you're rewarding every single accomplishment. Now, for some children, that might be a full sheet of homework or a full subject. I would reward my kids when they had finals coming, when they were in high school or middle school or even earlier. When they had tasks that I knew were coming, I would get them organized and schedule for them and say, today you're going to do these 3 and this is what you're going to do, and then we're going to stop and play. And you need to help them figure out how to organize themselves and then reward it, right? You would definitely need to have strong rewards. And if it was a really tough subject, like let's say math, I would then make it just like every 5 questions you do, we're going to do some major reward. I'd make sure they get snacks frequently, all that kind of stuff, so that it was an overall tolerable or pleasant experience. And that's what you have to do with homework. Otherwise it's just too much for our kids. And the other aspect of homework is that sometimes you'll be assigned homework which isn't due tomorrow, it's due in 3 days. And that's super important. Like a lot of homework is not about the content so much as it is about the organizing of when to do it, how much to do. It's teaching our kids study skills, really. I think I did pretty well with Nikki on that one.
I was going to say, all of your kids are pretty amazing.
Well, Sonny used to fight me on this kind of stuff all the time. I never could make math more rewarding enough for him. But
he's too
he
creative.
got through it. Yes, I know. But he got through it, and he's great, and he got all A's, so it's good.
And knows enough that he needs to know to go be a brilliant mind.
Yes.
So we're about out of time here. I didn't get to the question about card being errorless.
I'll just answer it really quickly, because there's a question that says, is the card model errorless learning, or is it prompt after every second trial? What you're describing is after 2 attempts, a child is prompted. That's discrete trial training. That's people refer to it as a no prompt. They refer to it as many different names, but we're both. We're all of the above. What we do is when a thing is new, a concept is new, we do errorless. So we reward a lot. When the child has had some exposure to it, we will go to the ABA discrete trial model, which means we give the child 2 attempts to get it on their own. If they don't, we want to make sure the last attempt is successful. So if you're at the 2 attempts and then a prompt, that means your child is a little bit more into the lesson. At the very beginning, it's errorless.
There we go. I thank you so much for being here.
It's a
with
pleasure,
us.
always.
And I want to thank everybody else for being here. We have amazing shows this week. During tomorrow's show, we're going to have Dina Kimmel from We Rock the Spectrum so that we can talk a little bit more about the Sensitive Santa. But don't be afraid. Sign up for your free tickets right now. Go on our Facebook, and you can see where you can sign up for that. And then on Friday, big show too. We've got more toys and more wonderful guests. So don't miss out, but do sign up for Sensitive Santa if you're at all in the Los Angeles area. Thank you so much. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.